We've all had that experience in life where either from us or from a friend, where you get into a relationship, usually when you're younger, sometimes when you're older, and the relationship starts taking over your life or your buddy's life, and then they slowly start fading away from you as a friend, and then you see them slowly start fading away from their family, and they become more and more isolated in that relationship to the worst extent. They break up, and then that person or you starts turning to some kind of supplement like alcohol to make them forget about it. And then they convince themselves that there's never going to be a relationship after that, and that was the only one that was worth anything for the rest of their life. They're going to be just trying to recreate that perfect relationship back, when on the reality, from the outside looking in, you just think, this is a terrible situation. This was never going to be good. There's so many people left in the world. There's so many other opportunities for another relationship, and you're stuck on this one. Like I said, I'm speaking in third person because it could be you, it could be me, it was me at one time, and I've known many friends that have done this, and you just get completely blinded. That was one of the questions on the podcast today. And so we're going to dig through that. We're going to dig through people seeing God in the clouds, which I don't know how I feel about that. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to kind of dig into all different kinds of questions. If you have anything for me, anything at all, music related, relationship related, God in the clouds related, email Granger Smith Podcast at gmail.com. I have my good friend Chad Warren that's going to help me answer some of these questions today. Really smart dude. I met him recently because of a crazy ice storm in Texas, and we became friends in a strange way, which I'll talk about it. Chad is a cancer survivor that has gone through unbelievable experience with that. He is a CrossFit addict. I won't hold that against him. And he's also the connections pastor at First Baptist Church in Georgetown, Texas. He's a really good candidate he's also from Montana and Colorado, and currently lives in Texas. He's a well-rounded speaker for this podcast, and he's going to have a good opinion on a lot of these questions, and you guys are going to like him a lot. So I'm excited. Welcome to the podcast. Yee yee.
Dip cans and diesel, mud tires and smoke. Long line of 4x4s bumping down an old back road. Crazy cold ones high, it's a redneck invasion. Yeah, you're rocking with that Yee Nation.
Chad, I was talking just before we started this podcast. You asked me if I'm a CrossFitter.
Yeah.
I said no. I do strength training.
I mean, you look like you can handle yourself.
So do you. It's like, and sometimes you think of, maybe it's the strength training guys, think of the CrossFitting guys as like adversaries, like those guys, they do all kinds of crazy stuff.
It is definitely a subculture.
It is.
Yeah, there's words and acronyms, and like right now we're in the open season, so the CrossFit Open, so everyone's kind of tuned in. So you've got this, they claim it's the largest fitness competition globally. So you can do it in your garage, you can go to a CrossFit affiliate, and you compete against everybody in the world. And then they'll post one workout a week. So this morning, or last night was the first workout, and they'll do 3 over the next 3 weeks. And you just get after it, and you see how you rank against everybody in your age, demographic, all that kind of stuff.
So comment below if you're a CrossFitter and you're participating in CrossFit Open season right now. Yeah. Is that what you said? Open season?
It's open.
It's open.
It's the season of the open. It's not like, I mean, some people might think it's like hunting. Yeah. That if you see a CrossFitter, take aim. Yeah. Yikes.
So the closest connection I have to CrossFit is my drummer, Dusty. And I think he actually is a little bit into it, but he was all into it at one point. And this is about 2 years ago. Yeah. And he got rhabdomyolysis.
Oh, rhabdo. Yeah. And I've heard of that.
It was crazy. So bad. It was a day of a show, and he was going to try to make the show. And his muscles were swelling. I mean, he looked like he got bitten by the most deadliest scorpion in South Africa. I mean, it was crazy. His face was puffy. His arm was all puffed up. And he had to go into, pretty much an emergency situation at the hospital where they had to fix him up and do whatever. It's like overhydration or what? I can't even.
Yeah, it's something about the blood. Blood and muscle tissue and breakdown. It's actually pretty rare, but it's gruesome enough that when it happens, lots of people take notice and they're like, okay, that's it, I'm out. Yeah. So yeah, it's rare. I've been coaching for over 2 years. I coach CrossFit, and I've never seen it. So
okay, well that's something. And then my personal connection with it is, and you probably know David Goggins.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
As you used to actually really want to be a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
And we could talk about that, but David Goggins. Absolute crazy ex-Navy SEAL, now author and speaker. Yeah. But I was reading his book, and he was talking about this pull-up challenge and how many pull-ups can you do. And he was like, he was walking it through like mathematically, like I could do so many pull-ups in a minute, and then if I could just keep going and have 30 seconds of rest and then do 20 more and then rest for 10 seconds, then I could pretty much do pull-ups all day long. So I was reading the book, and I was like, man, I could do a lot of pull-ups. I'm pretty good at pull-ups. Like, I wonder if I could follow this pattern and do 10 and then rest for 20 seconds and then do 10 and do rest for 20 seconds. And how long could I go and how many pull-ups could I do? So I started it. On day one, I got tennis elbow from it. And it was, dude, it was so painful. It was so painful to have that tendonitis that I couldn't even close the car door.
And just in the one arm?
Yeah, just in one arm. And I learned later that what happens is, and David Goggins, he just tore up his hands during pull-ups. But what happens is, when you start getting tired, you start losing your grip.
Yep, and your hand starts kind of rolling on the bar.
Exactly.
And it's rolling back and forth. That's where you tear things.
Yeah. So now anytime I do a pull-up now, I make sure that bar is all the way into the bed of my thumb, as tight as it can go inside there, and that my wrists are straight.
It down, yeah. That's good. We should do some pull-ups sometime.
All right. I mean, See, that's my problem is my brain will always keep going. It's like, no, I just keep going. Just keep going. It hurts. Keep going. And then I end up hurting myself.
Well, we can't. Yeah, we're at an age now where things don't recover quite as fast.
Absolutely.
But we think we're still like in our 20s and we're good to go.
I know.
Anyway.
And I remember our dads, or at least my dad saying that, and I just thought, you're such an old man.
Yeah.
I'll never think that. Here I am saying the same thing. So, Chad, you're a Montana native.
Yeah. Born and raised. Northwestern Montana.
Yeah. And so you're a mountain guy. You've also spent time in Colorado.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We did a little stint in the east. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the Pacific Northwest, basically the Rocky Mountains.
Somehow you ended up in Texas.
Yeah. Well, my wife is from here. So some argue that I got wise and I realized I need to go find a good woman. Yeah. So go to Texas.
Yeah.
And she's an Aggie too.
Yeah.
So there you go. I'm married into all that.
I love it. But you're an Aggie too now.
Okay, so that's what that means?
I always try to say that is, people say, oh, I wasn't, I don't have the opportunity to become an Aggie. And I was like, well, an Aggie technically is the parent of someone that goes there. They're technically the spouse of someone that went there. And then there's a lot of people that could claim it through some other 1 degree of separation from the school itself.
Yeah. And there's a lot of noises you got to learn. Mm-hmm. And there's things that happen when you join that.
There's noises. I like it.
Whooping, and it's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although I get pretty into it. My wife says I'm more Aggie than she is sometimes because I get pretty fired up.
Good.
Yeah. I'm in.
So how long have you been married?
15. Well, we're in our 15th year of marriage.
So you know about Aggies.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
15 years.
Yeah.
So, Chad, we met. Just a little bit more backstory before we get into some questions here, but we met a very unique way. It was what people are calling the snowpocalypse now in Texas, and we have a mutual friend, and there was a day in Texas midweek, mid-storm, when the ice finally subsided enough for people to actually get on the roads.
Yep.
And the day that happened, kind of everyone in Central Texas knew that there's going to be people in need of food and water. And so me and my brothers here, we decided to go, and the first step was, let's go get a bunch of pizzas. And then and I put it on Instagram that we're going to get a bunch of pizzas and give them out to people that are hungry that day, need a hot meal. And then that mutual friend connected you, who was actually, you were doing the same thing. And you didn't need so much the pizzas as the able bodies to hand the pizzas out.
Yep. And people willing to drive.
Yes.
In conditions that were unfavorable. Yeah. So, yeah, in my role at the church, I got a call from somebody at the county, and they said, hey, now that the roads are becoming drivable, is there a way that you would be willing to open your doors at the church and start to receive donations and then find a way to distribute those? So that's what we did. We just opened up. And then just as things were developing, that mutual friend of ours said, hey, I have a buddy who's wanting to hand out pizzas. Can he sync up with you guys and what you're doing? I'm like, sure. So we had been learning about several neighborhoods where there were quite a few people that were in need. And so, yeah, you and I linked up at the corner and grabbed our pizzas, and we just started handing them out, and groceries and Sonic burgers and all kinds of stuff.
So we spent a couple hours that day together doing that, and then later we texted, and I don't know who said it first, but it's like, man, let's grab some lunch, let's grab some tacos. So we did that, and then I was like, hey, you're a cool guy, and I hope that you maybe thought that about me.
Well, I just thought you were a dude. I just thought you were a really cool guy.
I am.
And you are a really cool guy, but then I thought you were the yee guy. I didn't know that. Like,
that's actually what your text said. The first text was, are you the yee guy?
Yeah.
I was like, yes.
Because I'd seen hats and shirts. I'm like, oh, those are cool. And then I didn't know, like, you're a thing. And I didn't know that.
Well, then we had lunch again, had tacos again, had some deep conversations. And I was like, man, I have this podcast. I answer these questions. People, all kinds of questions. They'll send them in. And you want to help me out on it?
Well, you said, so it would be like us sitting around a campfire in Colorado. And I thought we were going to be sitting around a campfire in Colorado. So when you were like, hey, it's just about 15 minutes outside of town, I thought that's interesting. Maybe we're going to, road trip or something. But here we are.
Yeah. So we're not at all in Colorado. We're at the Yee farm, and I do have some questions.
Because you're the Yee guy.
I'm the Yee guy with the Yee farm, answering some Yee questions.
That's right.
And if anyone listening has a Yee question of any kind, email Granger Smith Podcast at gmail.com. Could be about anything. Could be about music. Could be about life. Could be about relationship. Could be about job. Could be advice. Could be anything that you would talk about sitting around a campfire. And so neither one of us have notes. Chad has no idea what I'm about to say. And I looked at these just a little bit just to make sure we were kind of in the ballpark of what I wanted to do. And I'm going to start out with the kind of light, Chad, here.
All right.
But then I have to remember which ones. Oh, here we go. Have you ever driven a combine? And I have not driven a combine. I have not driven a combine, and I have droned many combines for YouTube, and I have some family in Plainview. So I used to grow up and go to their farm out in Plainview, Texas, and see them run the combine. And but I've played plenty of shows where they're
present.
Like they're the backdrop of the stage. But I've never actually been in the seat and driven one. Have you?
I've driven a combine.
Okay.
So I have family in North Dakota, and so we went and visited them one time. And as a kid, I don't know that you could call it driving it or piloting it or whatever. But then in high school, I worked for a farmer in Colorado, and I ran the swather, which is similar to a combine. A combine's taking, corn and stuff, but a swather is cutting hay. And it was a pretty sweet gig, an air-conditioned cab, and had a CD player. And I would put in, every morning when I go out there, I put in the soundtrack to Top Gun.
Yeah.
And act like I was firing up the jet.
Love it.
Just get things rolling and just dial it in.
Yeah, me and Chad are the same age, so Top Gun is like, right down our alley.
Which there's another one coming out.
I know. And it was actually supposed to be 2020.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic pushed it back. Which on YouTube now, I could say coronavirus now. There was a time, and they just released that, but there was a time when YouTube was demonetizing anything and hiding the analytics or the algorithm of anything that said coronavirus.
So what would you call it, the Rona?
I would just say the virus.
The virus, okay, yeah.
You know what we're talking about, virus. So yeah, shout out to Braden. Doesn't say where you're from, Braden, but I have not. Chad has. I'm assuming you have. And I hope that you listen to the podcast in your combine. I know it's not season right now, but I hope you listen to it in your tractor. That'd be really cool. Hey, Granger. I'm from Garnett, Kansas. This guy's name is Trevor. And I was wondering, what is your favorite kind of rifle to use when you deer hunt? And what is your choice? God bless. Thanks, Trevor. Shout out to Kansas, everyone in Kansas, another combine state. I'm not a big fancy rifle guy. And that's because my dad never was. It was never all about the best rifle in town. I've shot a lot of 7mm 08 and 270. And then lately, I've gotten into the 6.5 Creedmoor. And I have recently I got a Savage Arms 6.5 Creedmoor, which is an ultralight rifle, which is awesome, which would work great in Montana if you're in the mountains. And I don't even have a hunt planned where I would actually need an ultralight rifle, but I love it. And it's on the bottom end, like the Savage Arms, this one is on the bottom end, money-wise, of the ultralight world. And I think it's awesome. It feels great. And how about you, Chad?
That's a big deal. Ultralight rifles in Colorado, Montana, because you are trekking.
Yeah.
You are stalking animals. You are putting in miles and miles a day just to see traces of something.
Yeah.
When I came to Texas and a buddy asked me to go deer hunting, I wasn't sure what that would entail, like if we'd be walking across wide open plains or army crawling or something. But then he puts me in what he calls the executive blind.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, what's that mean? It literally had like a swivel leather reclining chair.
Yeah.
And we were just going to wait. And I was like, well, what are we waiting for? Is there a certain time of day where they come out? He goes, yeah, when the feeder goes off. I was like, so basically we're shopping today. And
shopping, I like it.
When I shop in Texas for deer, I use I inherited a lever action 30-30, kind of an old cowboy gun. And
love lever action.
Then I use a 300 Win Mag. It's a Model 70 Winchester for elk hunting is what I primarily do, or mule deer up in Colorado or Montana.
Dude, people are losing their mind agreeing with you when you're talking about shopping for deer. And and it, I love deer hunting, and I always have. And in Texas, it's typically sitting in a blind, and you're hunting a food plot. You could be hunting a feeder. And when I started touring and getting outside of Texas and noticed that's like really bad to talk about that for people outside of Texas. They're like, what? That's not hunting. That's not hunting. As Chad from Montana would say, that's shopping, actually.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, I agree. I do like to, I love to go and shoot a doe and put a bunch of meat in the freezer.
Yeah. If you're going for meat, it's great because it's a given. You're going to walk away that day.
Yeah.
And I was in a situation where I think he calls them coal bucks. Mm-hmm. He needed me to kind of take out some of the bad genetics or something like that. He's like, yeah, come here, shoot some of the. So then he said, before you shoot, send me a picture of what you're about to shoot, and then I'll let you know if it's okay. So, I mean, such a different world where you would sit there, I'd have cell coverage, I would be able to snap a photo. He's in a blind somewhere else, and he goes, yeah, take the one on the right. It's like, okay, we're hunting in Texas. This is awesome.
Yeah, cold buck. That's and the idea behind it is good. Management hunting is good because you are, the number one way to get big antlers out of a buck is refining the genetics. Mm-hmm. So, and people look past that a lot, and they think, oh, it's all about feed, and which is feed is the second, but genetics is number one, and the only way to really get those genetics is to cull out the inferior genetics.
Yeah, take out the other suitors.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. So, well, cool. You got another? I'm gonna spread this out. I'm gonna spread out the easy ones because I have another one.
Okay, good.
We'll see. Time 18. Cool. So, let's get into some meat here, Chad.
All right.
I'm gonna start with this one. That the subject is wavering faith question. Dear Granger, just want to say I'm a huge fan of the show and I've listened to every episode. Dude, thank you, Michael. Says it gets me through my long shifts at patrolling. I'm a police officer here in Arkansas. Shout out to Arkansas. Mm-hmm. And I've seen the worst that life has to offer through my job and also in my personal life. In 2016, I lost my father to cancer. He was one of the nicest guys you could ever meet. In July of this year, I lost my mother. She was shot in her home. My mother was a recovered drug addict who had gone to prison and got out, and it completely changed her life. She tried to help anyone in need that she could, and due to this, I have found my faith wavering. I'm a believer in Christ, but due to the things I've seen at work and the tragedies I've faced in my life, I've found my relationship to God is getting more distant. I don't go to church as much anymore or talk to God as much as I used to. My wife has noticed this, and it kind of put a strain on our marriage. My wife loves going to church, and it's a chore for her to get me to go. Did you go through anything like that with what happened with River? And what advice could you give someone to try and get the relationship back with God? And that's from Michael. First of all, thank you for your service, Michael. You're out there protecting the community in Arkansas. Thank you for your service, and thank you for being able to endure what you see for the sake of protecting so many lives, keeping so many people safe. And I'm not going to pretend like I even know what you have seen or what you've gone through. And I know that there's a lot of law enforcement that listen to this podcast. So thank you for everyone. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate. Other than that being said, it is still a common question that you're asking. That you don't have to see what you see or be in your line of duty to have your faith wavering or to due to loss in the family, strain in the marriage. Your wife wants to go to church, you don't. I would think this is pretty common. It's a pretty common American man wavering. That could be just as equally women. So the danger here, first of all, is being angry and blaming God for any of this. And what has happened is when these events have changed you in some way, and your first reaction was to move away from God and to talk less to God. And these are your words. God's getting more distant. I don't go to church. I don't talk to God as much as I used to. And in fact, you're almost answering your own question when you say, how do I get closer to God? I'm not talking to him as much. Right? Well, that'd be the first kind of thing that I think out of this.
Yeah. I mean, we can certainly distance ourselves from him as we pull away. And I think you're right. It is one of the most common things that people will wrestle with. within the faith and outside of the faith, is if there is a good and all-powerful God that created everything, and why do bad things happen? Why is there evil? Why is there so much brokenness in a world that he created? And if he's all-powerful and all good and all loving and has the power to make that all go away, why doesn't he do that? I mean, that's
probably the most common question I could think of for a non-believer.
Yep.
Right.
And those that do have a faith in Christ, that's going to be one of those things when they encounter situations where they are up, right in the midst of pain and personal tragedy, evil, that's what's going to start to shake things, because they're going to go, why would he let this happen?
Yeah.
Why is this going to happen?
Yeah.
And, there's a couple of things that I think about that. First of all, one of the main parts of the question is, well, who's responsible for the bad thing that happened? Who's responsible for the evil that we experience in this world? And we know the Bible it's not a mystery in the Bible. It's we, first a part of God, designed this whole thing, and he said it's good, it's perfect, it's going to run absolutely beautifully. And he's the author of truth, of goodness, of beauty. It's humanity that said, you know what? I think I'd like to give it a shot on my own. I'd like to try things my way. So as soon as we depart from God's design of the family, of the way that we interact with other people in our community, the way that we interact with money, the way that we, use technology, anytime we say, I'm going to try it my way, as opposed to God's way, it's always going to lead to brokenness. Yeah. And then we experience that brokenness and we go, man, things aren't right. Things don't work. Why don't they work? And then these man-made attempts to try to fix the brokenness only lead to more brokenness. Yep. So God's solution is he shows up on the scene, and he demonstrates through the ministry, the life of Jesus Christ, that this is the way out. We're going to return to God's design. And so rather than human efforts that lead to more brokenness.
So good. Such a good word. And it's what's awesome, Michael, is that you say in here, I'm a believer in Christ. Christ was a suffering Christ. He demonstrated coming to this earth, being in the flesh and suffering just like you're suffering. Mm. And then he says, follow me, do what I do through that suffering. So if I could sum up what I'm going to say to you, I'm going to say, dude, you're not alone. Your question is valid. Here's how I can answer it for you. Because you did bring me involved in this question. I'd say, God is distant. You don't talk to him more. Fix that. Talk to him. Get on your knees. Crawl to him. Then, secondly, open your Bible. Open your Bible. You're going to find your story on every page. It's really hard to not find your story in the pages, right there, in every page. You're going to find stories of suffering and glory and grace and redemption and restoration and love and wrath. You're going to find it all on almost every single page. And the Bible's one of these books where you open most books and you think, what can I find out? What can I know? What can I know? And what can I learn from this book? In the Bible, you open it up and you go, actually, I think this book already knows me. Mm-hmm. It's really weird, right? It's really weird. This book knows me. Like, dude, Michael, you're going to open this up and go, that's me. That's me. That was the question in the podcast. And there's my answer. Now, is it going to talk about what you've seen on duty? Is it going to talk about your dad in 2016? No. It's going to have very similar stories for you and an example on how to live and where to go from here.
And the reality that in God's economy, as we follow Christ, it's not going to be absent from suffering, from trial, from struggle.
Yeah, it's promised.
It's promised that when this happens, consider it pure joy because it's testing the genuineness of your faith. Do you really believe? And I think of your story, and even in the recent announcement and the new adventure that you guys have, that there's absolute pain and at the same time, there's joy.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that when you guys made that announcement, and I was like, there is a word that we can't capture in the English, but exists in the Greek. And so there's no like equal or equivalent word. So it takes two English words to translate this, but there's this term in the Greek called karmalupe, and it means simultaneous deep sorrow and at the same time happiness.
Dude.
Mutually, like at the same time. And in God's economy, what he says is the things that you face in this life that are absolutely, unquestionably painful, and you go, I would never want to do that again, but I'm glad it happened. It's because of God's economy. That's how he prunes. That's how he gives us strength. That's how our roots go deeper and deeper. An agricultural analogy, we have these plum trees in our backyard. We inherited them when we bought the house, these trees, and they were not producing plums, and they were just growing everywhere. So my wife starts reading, and she's like, I think we're supposed to put, mulch down and some other stuff like that. We need to trim these things, prune them, and apparently that's going to, and I'm thinking, so you mean we're going to cut the trees,
Yep.
and we're going to throw chewed up dead trees, as in mulch, around the base of them, and somehow that's going to work? And absolutely. So she got to half of them. So the next season came around, and the ones that she pruned and she put down the mulch, they were vibrant. They were producing plums. The other ones were overgrown, still not producing. So there's, even within the creation, the way that he's wired this whole thing, that we're going to face adversity, and that's going to test the genuineness of our faith, and it's going to produce more life to come.
Dude, so good. I love tree analogies.
Yeah, right.
We'll be right back. This podcast is free for anyone that wants to watch it or listen to it on whatever app or whatever platform you want. Unfortunately, it's not free for me to make. I'm very blessed to have sponsors for today's episode, and the first one is Features. You guys have probably heard me talk. If you've listened to this show before, you've heard me talk about Features. Have you ever had socks that just kind of slip down into your shoe during the course of the day? Yes, everybody has. Has a blister ever stopped you from performing your best at a workout or a run or playing some kind of sport? Yes, everybody's had that. Has foot pain ever slowed you down? Are you picky about your footwear, but you believe all socks are made exactly the same, like I used to when I just go to Walmart and get some socks? This pretty much includes everybody, right? And that's where Features steps in. They are obsessed with making the perfect sock, and you're quickly going to become obsessed with their socks too. I started wearing Features when they shipped them to me. I didn't know anything about it when I was going to start talking about it on this podcast, and I was like, wow, these are really good. They perfectly conform to your foot, and it has like these little tabs that fit perfectly around your ankles, whether it's the ankle socks or the mid-high or the knee-high, whatever you want to get. They have this targeted compression, and they call it an anatomical design. I don't even know what that word means, but it fits really good. That's what I could say with targeted compression. They're engineered to help you achieve your best every single day, whether you're working or you're just out on the go. It acts like it's hugging around the arch of your foot, keeping your sock in place and preventing it from bunching, slipping, or sliding down into your shoe. The design conforms to the left and right shape of your foot, depending on which one it is, creating a custom-like fit that keeps your sock in place so you could focus just on your workout or whatever you're doing. Every step is cool, dry, and comfortable. These things have a lifetime guarantee. They're so durable and long-lasting that if you're ever unsatisfied at any point, they're just going to give you a replacement pair, which is awesome. No questions asked, guaranteed to be the best socks you've ever worn. That's what they're saying. They're family-owned. It's a really good company, and they're challenging you to try a pair. And if you don't think they're the best socks you've ever worn, they'll take them right back. So they're so confident that you're going to love their socks. They're going to give my listeners of the Granger Smith Podcast $10 off your first pair of Features when you go to features.com/Granger. That's Features. It's FEETURES.com/Granger for $10 off your first pair of Features. It's also brought to you by Sunday. This is a really cool company that I just learned about as well. And I've had so much time at home because of not touring. I think you guys have heard I've put out a garden. I've been working so much. We're building the house. So I've been able to really work on making the yard just like I want it. And I've loved having that time. It's just good, relaxing time to be able to go out and work in the grass. Now, Sunday is a lawn care product, but it's more than just your typical lawn care product. It's customized lawn plan that works with nature. They take all the guesswork out, all the unwanted chemicals, so you can grow a beautiful lawn that's better for people, pets, and the planet. Now, what they do is you fill out exactly where you live, and they will look at that geographical location, put it into their big computer, whatever they do, and they send you a free lawn analysis. And it says you need this, and they make your special product that goes exactly with your lawn and your grass and your region and your state and your soil type and all that. I don't even know how they know all that, but it's some big database. And then they ship you your product, which is awesome. All you have to do is go to sunday.com, put in your home address for your free lawn analysis tool, and they'll take care of the rest in just seconds. Sunday uses soil and climate data to create a tailored nutrient plan, so you get all your stuff your lawn needs and nothing that it doesn't. Sunday is made with ingredients you could actually pronounce, like seaweed, iron, molasses, so you can grow better and also feel better about it. They explain to you exactly what you get and why, and everything is straight to your door, right when you need it, right to your doorstep, which is awesome. All you have to do is attach the ready-to-use pouch to a garden hose and spray. Lawn care used to take up my entire day. Now it takes less than 15 minutes, and I know I'm doing it right. Best of all, the stuff really works. Let Sunday take the guesswork out of growing a greener, more beautiful lawn this spring. Visit sunday.com/Granger to get $20 off your custom lawn plan at checkout. That's $20 off your custom plan at getsunday.com/Granger. And last but not least, we have Athletic Greens as a sponsor again. This is such a great company, and I need to tell Chad about this too. And I've been making these morning shakes for about 10 years now. I've been making some kind of protein, some kind of banana or apple or kale or something green, or that it just like gives me this really good nutritious boost every morning. Now, I've been doing this so long because it actually works. What happened is Athletic Greens figures this out. They contact me and they say, hey, we have this really cool product that's a scoop of this green powder. Sounds gross, but listen, it contains 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food sourced ingredients, including a multivitamin, multimineral, probiotic, green superfood blend, and more that all work together to fill the nutritional gaps in your diet, increases your energy and focus, aids with digestion, and supports a healthy immune system, all without the need to take multiple products. Now, you could do this any way. You could take this little pouch that they give you or a scoop. It comes in two different ways that I have it. You can put it straight in water, mix it up, boom, good to go. It doesn't taste bad. It actually tastes kind of sweet. So you could do it that way, or you could do it like my way. And this is just me personally. I like to put it in my shake, and it actually gives a really good flavor to it. And for those of you that have never had anything like this, I can understand how it sounds crazy, but it really does taste good. And even better than that, you start feeling better. So it's lifestyle friendly, however you eat, whether it's keto or paleo or vegan or dairy free or gluten free or tons of hamburgers. It contains it contains less than 1 gram of sugar without compromising on taste. So you can't beat that. Right now, Athletic Greens is doubling down on supporting your immune system throughout all these crazy winter and spring months. They're offering my audience a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. If you visit my link today, you'll basically never have to buy vitamin D again. So whether you're looking for peak performance or better health, covering your bases with that Athletic Greens makes investing in your energy, immunity, and gut health every single day simple, tasty, and efficient. Visit athleticgreens.com/Granger and join health experts, athletes, health-conscious go-getters like Chad, and wannabes like me around the world and make your daily commitment to good health. Again, visit athleticgreens.com/Granger and get your free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs today. I promise you guys are going to like this. All right, this question comes from Connor. It says, "Hey Granger, I want some advice about something. I want to be a veterinarian, but that costs a lot, and it takes a lot of time, and at the same time, it's my dream job. Can you help me decide if I should become a veterinarian or not?" Connor, shout out, buddy. You don't say where you're from, but I do know that your email comes from a school district website. So you're still in school. And I'm assuming that you want to be a vet. Let me just assume. You don't say, but I'm assuming you want to be a vet because you love animals. You love helping animals. And it's your dream job because you genuinely want to go into that field and make a difference. And I want to tell you that you don't have to be a vet to do that. So it's not, just so you know, it's not just about helping animals. There's a lot more to being a vet. I've actually talked to friends that went into vet school and then realized later how difficult it is when they went in with the mentality of they just want to help animals. They find out that you go, say you're a small animal vet, someone brings their dog in, and it has really bad hip dysplasia, and you say, okay, well, we're going to have to perform surgery. It's going to be about $1,500. And the person goes, just put them down. It happens. And the vet goes, well, no, I could do the surgery. I could make this flawless. I could make this dog great. I just can't afford $1,500. Just go ahead and, what's the next step? Put him down? And guess what you have to do? Put him down.
And that's hard if you love animals.
Yes.
And you know you can help them. You have the tools.
Yes. So Connor, are you aware of that? That's a little wrinkle in this dream. Maybe you're totally fine. Maybe you know exactly what you're getting into. This is what you want to do. So first step, coming from a student email, dude, I would work on your grades. I would concentrate on your biology and your math. And if that's truly your dream, then study harder and longer than your friends. And you could offset that cost of a vet school with forms of scholarships. But none of that's going to happen unless you make that effort right now in your grades. And it's a sacrifice. So much of life is a sacrifice.
And it sounds like working on math, biology, grades, and your why. Right? We're assuming it's because you love animals. What's your why? And that's going to help you figure out, is it worth it? The cost benefit of, okay, my why is pretty strong. I'm dialed in. And then maybe you need help figuring out your why. So maybe a part-time job is you go to the local vet and say, hey, I'll empty the trash cans. I'll do it, whatever it takes, just to be around it. And you can learn within that field. Maybe being a vet isn't the thing. Maybe there's something else within veterinary medicine that is a better fit for your personality. It's similar to medicine.
So good.
I've learned of people that they thought they wanted to be doctors, but then they realized, no, nursing is where, because I want to be doing direct patient care.
Seek wise counsel. That's great.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's plenty of vets. Go to the local vet and go till someone tells you, yes, you want to empty the trash. Until someone goes, yeah, we need a guy to empty the trash. And soak up 1 or 2 hours every weekday watching, learning, talking to the actual vet that's there. And part of that discussion will be, how do you afford for school? What do I need to be working on right now where I am in my life in high school? And you're going to get a lot of those answers. So good question, Connor, and good luck to you.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Okay, this question comes from Justin. He says, hey, my name's Justin Taylor, and I saw your last podcast. I have so many questions I've been wanting to ask you for a long time and just never got the courage to ask anybody. But let me give you a little short story of my life. I live in Cliff, New Mexico. I'm 19 years old. I live on a cattle ranch. I'm hurting over a broken up relationship. It lasted for 8 years. I can't stop thinking about her. It's a constant pain. She's moved on, but I guess I haven't. And this has been since June of 2019. I still am feeling like I'm about to have a heart attack basically every day. The only time I don't feel anything is when I'm in a 12-pack of beer or whiskey or whatever other alcohol I can get my hands on. And because of that, I've lost my best friend and some other really good friends. I've lost family, and I'm losing important people in my life. And it's all over the alcohol. And the thing is, it's making me worse, and I don't know how to handle that anymore. And his signature on his email says Fire and Rescue, Silver City, New Mexico. So shout out to Justin and New Mexico and Silver City Fire and Rescue. Thank you for your service once again. And I'm going to say this again, like I said earlier. This is a common question. It's not to diminish at all what you're going through. It's very, very heavy what you're going through. But I would say the good news is it's common. This is something that a lot of people are dealing with or have dealt with or have a friend or have a family member or a neighbor. You mentioned one today, your barber, that is dealing with this or has dealt with it, or it's very human of you. And thank you for trusting us with the question. 19 is young. It's young. My first question is, dude, 8 years, a relationship 8 years old, and you're 19? This started when you're 11?
I mean, that's the formative years.
Man, that's your entire teenage life was with this girl.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, understandable how you're really broken up about it. And I wish, man, it's so hard. It's so hard to listen to someone else tell you that this too shall pass. It's so hard to hear that. And I'm just speaking about the relationship part of it, not the alcohol part. Just the relationship part, man. As a friend, as a brother, is sitting around a campfire, I would say, dude, you're gonna find another girl. There's going to be another love of your life, and one that's a lot better.
There's 3 billion women on this planet.
Yeah, 3 billion with a B.
There's another one out there.
And I know in your mind, you hear that, and your first thought is, not like her. Not like her. Dude, she's 1 in 3 billion.
That's right.
Brother, I could tell you, and everyone can tell you, if you listen to any country music song, you're going to find another one. But you have to have the self-discipline, first of all, to continue your life and take the next step forward. And that has really hung you up, and you fell into the best, most sinister snare, and that's that alcohol could numb you from your current reality. So you're escaping reality. You're escaping the fact that all you really need to do is take the next step forward in your life, in your job, with your friends, and you're escaping that responsibility and retreating into something that's numbing you and only prolonging the pain.
That's a good point. It mutes pain, but it doesn't dissolve or resolve the pain. And so when that mute stops, then you're still left right there where you were, and sometimes in an even worse position. And I think I can remember Heartbreak in high school, and one of the challenges in moving forward was coming to grips with the fact that I had identified as a person in a relationship. I was the boyfriend of so-and-so. We had history, we had memories, we had experiences, and all of a sudden coming to grips with the fact that although that was the case, that identity no longer exists.
Yep.
And so the path forward is realizing your identity apart from anybody.
Yeah.
Who are you?
Yeah.
And starting to create some experiences and recognize what you like, what you want to do, who you are apart from anybody, so that when the next relationship comes, because there is a when. there is a next one. And when you get there, you're going to have a better understanding of what makes you tick. And you're probably going to have a better opportunity to identify who do you pair, who's the right.
Yeah. What's awesome, man, is that what this girl has done for you is narrow down your scope of who is right for you. And as soon as you realize that it wasn't a wasted 8 years, which is really long, by the way. It's a long time. But it wasn't a wasted 8 years. It was a learning experience that gets you that much closer to the right one. If any of your friends, your best friends, sat down and told you your story back to you, that was their story, what advice would you give them? Because it's like I said, it's so much easier to give that advice, but what would you tell them? You'd say you're ruining your friendships, you're ruining your family that you do have. You're walking on a dangerous tightrope right now with alcohol that could lead to alcoholism, and then you could never touch the stuff ever again. And that's a whole different story. You're going to ruin your opportunity to ever have a cold beer with one of your friends without it being a problem. And that could start now if you continue this numbing. You could always keep digging down. If you think it's bad, it could always get worse.
Yeah. And yeah, like you said, you're messing with the now and the future as you dwell in the past 8 years, and you're hanging on to stuff that, man, you want to learn from that. And maybe you need to identify some things you could have done differently, or the way you interacted or treated, or things you said. And there's a role that should play, but it's not where you live. You don't camp out there. You don't hang out there. You learn from the lesson, and then you move and you keep going, because there is a next day, and the sun will come up tomorrow. Yeah. And you got to be ready to face that day when the sun does come up.
Dude, I would encourage you, man, to there's nothing in your email that mentions God. I would encourage you explore that. What do I mean? I mean, hey God, it's Justin. I've never really talked to you before. I'm really hurting. I've heard some people on this podcast talk about you. I don't really know what to think. I don't really know if I believe it. But right now, I need you, because I can't fix this myself. I'm going down a dark tunnel. God, can you fix this? Can you show me what to do? Where to put the one foot after the other? Can you show me that? If you say that with sincerity, I would be really curious for you to email back to this podcast. If you give that kind of true sincerity, I'm talking about in your bathroom on your knees. What else do you have right now, Justin? What do you have to lose than dropping straight down to your knees? And that is not a bad place to be. That's not a bad place to be. Nothing else to lose. All I got is this. God, what do I have here? That's a common story, and I'll just be curious to see what would happen. And I'm not talking about some weird writing in the sky or something. I would be interested to see if you feel peace from that, and what that would lead to, what the next step would be with you. And losing your friends, losing your family, like you said in this email, that's all you got.
Your support network is gone, and the pain and loneliness you feel now is probably minimal compared to what it will feel like in a couple of months if you keep going this way. Yep.
Dude, I know you're a good guy. I know that you work for fire and rescue. You understand self-discipline. You understand priorities. And I would wake up tomorrow morning and go, today, I'm starting fresh. I'm going to brush my teeth, comb my hair, put on my shoes. I'm going to go to work, and I'm not going to feel sorry for myself. I'm going to move forward. I'm going to take that relationship, and I'm going to say, this is what I learned. And I'm going on. I'm moving forward with what I've learned. I'm a wiser, smarter man. And I would get on your knees in the bathroom and say that prayer too. That's me. That's my campfire thought.
And it's interesting that in fire and rescue, you exist to help other people.
Yep.
And a lot of times when we're in pain, we focus on ourselves and we just hang out there. It's amazing when you turn your focus away from self in the midst of your pain and just look for who's the next person I can help. Who can I serve? Who can I engage with? And all of a sudden we start to forget about our pain or our situation and we start to invest in other people. So, man, cut with the grain on this one. Yeah. He's clearly wired to help and serve people.
Yeah.
Do that. Yeah. Just do the next right thing right as you wake up.
Email back. Email back. Go through a 24-hour day like this and email back. And I want to see what you say.
Amen.
Yeah, thanks for the email. Want to do another one, Chad?
Sure.
Let me see.
Was that one of the softball questions?
No. Oh. They get heavier than that, but I'm going to go. This is not too heavy, but I did find the question interesting, and I think if I address it the way I want to address it, I'm going to make a lot of people mad.
Oh.
Right?
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Sorry. Okay, here we go.
I actually don't know how you feel about it either, but I kind of know you. I feel like I know you. All right, so the subject, godly advice. It says, "Hey Granger, I'm writing you from North Carolina. My husband and I are at a crossroads and need some godly perspective. We are both born and raised in North Carolina, and all of our family is here. However, we don't have the closest relationships with our families. We visited Texas twice this year. Long story short, it's been my dream to move out west. And since actually visiting in June, the desire has become stronger. I always pray for God's will to lead us in the right direction in all things, and specifically asked for His confirmation on this move. And shortly after our visit in June, I began to see cowboy hats in the clouds. A few days after that, my husband saw what looked like a hand holding the state of Texas. We have our jobs sorted. We have 2 kids, 8 and 4, and we would like to make a concrete decision before our 4-year-old begins kindergarten, which will be in the fall. My question is, what do we do? How do I explain that if this is God's call, which I strongly believe it is, then how do we obey? Appreciate the time. Love you guys. And
they make bumper stickers that say, I wasn't born here, but I got here as soon as I could. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, maybe that's the situation here.
You came to Texas, as we said, from another state.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I will say, if you end up making this transition, you probably won't regret it in regard to the people receiving you.
Yeah.
And the friendships that will welcome you. Yep. And the way that Texans, man, they're just warm, welcoming people. Thank you. Yeah, good people. The challenge, I think, and it sounds like you don't necessarily talk about the tension, but it sounds like the tension is you've got a huge family, or you've got family in North Carolina that you feel this obligation or this kind of this tie, like we need to stay here and do this, but at the same time you feel this pull to Texas. And so, the thought is make sure you're not running from something, but you're going to something, I think is an important component when you're making a transition. And also make decisions that are the best for your immediate family. Think about your kiddos. Yeah. Think about you and your husband and your marriage. Like, ultimately, is this what is best for that immediate family? And anything, it would be a blessing for your family in North Carolina to have someplace cool like Texas to visit.
So to answer your question, and let me say, I haven't said your name yet because it's Cecily. Is that how you'd say that?
Cecily?
Cecily? Cecily? Cecily. That sounds better.
Maybe
Cecily.
Yeah.
So I'm so sorry for saying that. The reasons to move to Texas are strong. You got good reasons. Your job is flexible. The schools in Texas are great. North Carolina is awesome too. So you're actually going there today.
Yeah,
You're driving
we leave this afternoon.
You're leaving there today. But the reasons for moving seem strong. We've talked about moving many times on this podcast. You are asking for godly advice. And that's the title of your email, and that you're wanting godly perspective from us. You asked for it, you're going to get it. And so all the other things, if we're just going to talk about the material reasons, components to move, I think it's great. You're good. This is where I have a problem, and this is where people are going to get mad at me. But when you start seeing cowboy hats in the clouds, it becomes pagan wishes. That becomes fortune telling in a way.
Well, I think what it is you're seeing what you want.
Yeah.
Right? The longings of your heart, you're looking for something external that will fulfill that desire, and then we've got reason to do it. We're getting the good book.
I don't typically do this, but you can't always take my word for it. You have to take the word for it. And so what I think of when I think of, because you're asking here, where did you say it? If this is God's call, how do I explain if this is God's call? Or in other words, God's will. And I think you did say will, another point in this email. So let's go to Romans 12:2, where it says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect." So the danger here is following your heart. Mm-hmm. Follow your heart. The world always wants to say, follow your heart, but the Bible says the heart is evil, and you need to conform your mind, the renewal of your mind. Don't conform to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. And so I wouldn't follow like symbols in the clouds and your husband seeing the state of Texas in their hands. I could go out here right now, Chad, and look at the clouds and find enough shapes to make me feel like whatever I'm thinking is reality. People have done that since the beginning of the time. They have found constellations in the sky to pretty much match any symbol or shape that they want it to be. That's so true. That is paganism. That's not. It is. It's a different question. That's fortune telling. That's looking to the stars. That's astrology. Instead of, when you're looking for God's will, he says, transform the renewal of your mind. So that's very different than, should I just lay here on this green grass and look at the sky long enough for God to just tell me that Texas is the right place? Mm-hmm. I say it when I think that I don't want people to get mad at me because can God do that? Yeah, of course he can. He could shape a cloud. Yeah.
He could absolutely do that.
Right?
Yeah. When I interact with people in a pastoral role, this is a very frequent question, right? I want to know God's desire for me. Is God calling me to this or that? Is this a sign or is that a sign? And oftentimes we're waiting for something that is external to the Word of God and what He's clearly prescribed for us to do. And we want to find some external thing that's going to kind of give that affirmation. But, you talk about the heart is one of those things that, man, we have to renew our mind. In Psalm 37, it says, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." And we oftentimes read that and go, okay, so if I just kind of do what God wants me to do, then I can get that brand new Ford F1 whatever, or I can get the thing that I really want. What that psalm means is if I delight myself in the Lord, well, the seed of delight is in the heart. So if I'm actually delighting in the Lord, then He is the desire of my heart. And I've aligned myself with Him because He is what is good, true, and beautiful. And so as I seek Him, as I press into Him, and He is my delight, then, man, it doesn't matter where I go or what I do because He's my delight. And so my encouragement is always, are you delighting in the Lord? Are you truly seeking the Lord in this decision? And the doors will open, the doors will close, opportunities will present themselves. And as long as it's not just overtly sinful or contrary to God, you can probably go do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that, I would say, your point of action would be exactly what Chad said. If there's nothing constricting you in any kind of way, then say, all right, God, it feels like the doors are opening to Texas. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to put the house on the market. We're going to start looking at real estate. Like, just take one step. You don't have to think, should we or should we not? Just start with a house. Start with a city. Pick a town and go, okay, all right, God, I'm going to start looking at real estate in Houston, Texas. And if you're not supposed to, if that's not part of God's will, he's not going to open anything up to you.
Yeah.
He's going to make that very difficult for you. So instead of looking at the clouds, use your brain. Use your brain. Use your mind. And go, all right, here we go. I'm sober-minded. I'm looking at the world. I'm looking at real estate apps, and I'm going to go, all right, I'm going to move forward, and God continue to open the doors I need to walk through and close the ones that I don't. And before you know it, you're going to get your answer. And I have done this thing. I have done this. I have said, all right, God, I feel like this house, this happened a year ago, guys. God, this house, it feels like this is right. So I'm going to go ahead and start getting the loan together and start moving on this house. We got the contract on the house. Okay. We're contingent on selling our house. All right. God, I'm not looking at the clouds. I'm not looking at tarot cards. I'm saying, all right, we're going to go ahead and move forward. And then coronavirus hit. Our house wasn't going to sell. We fell out of contingency. I fell out of the contract, and it's like, okay, there it is. There's the closed door.
Yeah.
It's not as hard as tarot cards. That's easy. There it is.
And sometimes the door remains open, we walk through it, and we fall on our face. And it doesn't work out, and we go, oh, man, I blew it. Am I outside of God's will? No, because we decided to do this. But realize, no, as we walk with the Lord, even if it doesn't work out in human standards, God uses everything for his glory, for his good, and to shape us into the image of his son. So it's going to work. If you move to Texas and, man, it's not what you thought it was, it's exactly what God knew was going to happen, and he's going to use that in your life.
And guess what? North Carolina's not going anywhere.
Right.
It's not going anywhere. You can go right back to North Carolina, and don't worry about kindergarten, right? I don't think it's a legitimate concern on your part, emailing and saying you want to do this before you're forward. Man, kids are so resilient. You could start your kids could go to school, and my kids have done this. We've changed schools twice, and you could move to another one. Your 8-year-old might kick and scream a little bit, but they're going to make new friends, and they're going to be resilient, and they're going to fall into a new place. Sometimes as parents, you just have to be flexible. And although we want to be concrete before the 4-year-old starts kinder, that's a good map, but you don't have to hold that as gospel. You don't have to hold that as what's best is the longevity of your family and where you're going to be for a long time. And there's kindergartens and there's great teachers everywhere. Great question.
That's a good word.
Yeah. Thank you for emailing. And dude, Chad, it's been fun.
This is a blast. Yeah.
We're gonna go get tacos again one of these days, and then we're gonna get on this podcast again. If you want to see more Chad, say more Chad. And if anybody has any more questions, or if you have a Chad-specific question, that could happen. Maybe you're from Montana, you have a Chad-specific Montana question. Maybe you're mad at him for calling hunting shopping in Texas. Email Granger Smith Podcast at gmail.com and tell him you want Chad, and we'll definitely have you back.
Cool. This has been fun.
Yeah, dude.
It was a blast.
See you, brother.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining me on the Granger Smith Podcast. I appreciate all of you guys. You could help me out by rating this podcast on iTunes. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to this channel, hit that little like button and the notifications bell so that you never miss any time I upload a video. If you have a question for me that you would like me to answer, email grangersmithpodcast@gmail.com. Yee.